We're live on YouTube. Here we go.
Oh, here we go. What am I doing? What am I supposed to be doing here?
Oh, he's doing it.
I don't know what I'm doing.
All right, he's doing it. I was going to do it, but...
Oh, he's doing it. Okay. Okay. All right. We just finished our half hour, 10:30 to 11, doing a Bible and culture and Corona study. For those of you who are just tuning in to WNN 1470 95.3, iHeartRadio, and every other way in the world to connect with us at 11:05 in the morning on the 31st of March, I want to tell our radio listeners that we have included on our show, from 10:30 to 11 East Coast time, a half hour, about 20 minutes, and then I'm going to interact with the audience once we get our Mother Mary sorted out. A study looking at the Jewish Christian scriptures, the Bible, and we're gonna look at it to help provide some inspiration, some hope, some assistance through these very, very difficult days. I'm sure, we have an audience, potential audience of 6 million people in South Florida, from Miami to North Palm Beach. This radio station goes, and I'm sure many people are suffering from friends or relatives or themselves that are caught up in this disease, this enemy, this invisible enemy. So we wanted to take some of our capabilities and to dive into God's Word to see if there's anything there that can be helpful. And that's a rhetorical question. There's a lot there that can be helpful. And I'm laying out this week an argument, and an argument doesn't mean I'm arguing with anybody. I'm presenting rational reasons why it makes more sense to believe in the existence of a God than it doesn't. Why am I doing that in our 10:30 to 11? So that when we turn to this book, which should be viewed as a love letter from God to each person, when we do that, there's certitude, there's intellectual comfort and surety in the words that have been written, that they have personal meaning from the God who created the universe. That's what that whole first half hour is. The second hour on the radio, it's a circus here on the radio. Guys, how you doing in there this morning?
Doing great.
Well, hold on. Dick, go ahead.
Let the circus begin. We need a circus just to keep us educated and entertained.
Yes, we're running on...
We're running on empty.
Redlining it today, Tom.
Mark called me to the control room a little earlier, and you radio people, you can be watching this not while you're driving. I'm a little surprised. There's still a lot of cars on the road in South Florida. We're still moving around. But as I've mentioned several times, in all neighborhoods, all over the country, people are walking at right around 6, 7 o'clock when it cools off in Florida. Families and kids. I've never seen so many. They got no place to go. They're all home working instead of running around going to bars and clubs and everything else. It's kind of interesting. But we here know that you folks on the radio, if you want, you can watch this. Go to theunitedwest.org. If you're listening at home or on iHeart, go to theunitedwest.org, our homepage, and we're playing live right now. Are we really playing live?
We are.
It's
pretty impressive.
Confirmed. I have certitude that we're playing right now. At 11:30, we're gonna bring in our dear friend Claire Lopez for a 5-minute update on what she's doing now.
Maybe.
Oh, I know.
There's a lot of maybes.
Mark called me into the control room a little while ago before the show, and he said, "Look at that number." And the number was 95%.
No, it was 98%.
98%. 98% of what? I mean, it's just an elliptical number floating out there. 98% of what?
Of all computer resources streaming this show.
Okay,
so that means if I blow on the computer blows up. So if something happens on this broadcast,
I'll bring the cookies down for the non-techies. That means if you know anything about automobiles,
Yeah.
that's like putting your car in park.
Just letting you know, all that stuff behind you doesn't exist.
You're right, exactly. Putting your car in park and stepping on the gas and holding it to the floor for an hour and hoping the engine doesn't blow. That's what we're doing right now. The car's in park. Mark's foot is Mark and Dick in there. It's on the floor.
Yeah, that's exactly.
And hoping doesn't throw a rod or a hose or something. When you see buffering and glitches, then the oil pressure went down. All kinds of things are happening. But today, pillows made in America, death made in China. That's the name for our show today. We got some cool stuff as always. Pillows made in America. Flipping the left out. I mean the marketing arm of the Democrat Party, otherwise known as the White House Press Corps, except for one or two people. The marketing arm of the Democrat Party, the White House Press Corps, flipped out when Mike Lindell yesterday, we'll show you that in a little bit, maybe. Everything's maybe. Flipped out when Mike Lindell talked about how his company has transitioned. When I know we can do that, maybe in a little while. We don't want to blow everything up right now.
That's really dumping resources right now.
All right. We'll do that toward the end of the show, so at least they get some of it.
Yeah.
We'll do that. But briefly, I'll tell you something that's upcoming on our show. President Trump, to his credit, has mobilized the private sector, not having to use the heavy hand of government by implementing the Defense Production Act, EPA, saying, guess what, everybody? We're like China now. We're like Venezuela. We're nationalizing everybody. Only for a little while, the Democrats were salivating over the nationalization and forcing the Wall Street corporations to do the will of the people. But they got a businessman in there that knows if you can bring people together for a focused mission and mobilize them because they want to be there. That's the difference between capitalism and socialism. These commanders of these companies, from a socialist point of view, they don't want to be there. They're there because if they're not there, they go to the gulag someplace. In a capitalist system, because many of these companies have had the opportunity to grow immensely, they understand the need for giving back. And one of those, Procter & Gamble was up there, FedEx, UPS over the past few days. One of them was Mike Lindell, the famous pillow guy, and Donald Trump brought him up yesterday. And Mike Lindell said, look, I make pillows. He makes a lot of money making pillows. And 10 years ago, he was a crack addict. 10 years ago, Mike Lindell was a crack addict. And he found Jesus, literally, became a born-again Christian, turned his life around. His company, he had been running into the ground, this little pillow company. And when he straightened his life out, like in one day, it was a miracle. You should hear him tell the story. We've met him. And his company started getting very, very successful. And he wanted to do these infomercials to simply be a common man talking to everyday people about something you do a third of your life, sleeping. And boom, perfect storm. And he's become a several $100 million company, makes a lot of money, was dedicated. And here's a lesson for all of us at 11:13 in the morning. Your host, Tom Trento. Make America think again. I want you to think about this. Here's a lesson for all of us. Mike Lindell probably could have increased his bottom line, his profit, by 30%. 30% of several $100 million a year. A lot of money. But he said, I'm not having this stuff made in China. He made this decision 10 years ago. I'm not having my stuff made in China. I'm in Minnesota. I love my state. I'm having this thing made in the United States of America. I love this country, what it's done for me. I appreciate everybody in this country. I'm making my pillow in the United States of America. And he gave up 20-30% of profit. Amazing. Well, he got up on the podium yesterday at the White House briefing, and he said, Mr. President, I'm here to tell you that I have redirected our factories for making pillows. We're going to be making the masks so needed by the frontline soldiers, the men and women on the front line who are at the beginning of an extremely difficult mission. They've got to not only confront this enemy, they've got to push back the enemy. This is an assault. This isn't a defensive move by our doctors and nurses and EMTs and police. This is an assault against an enemy. And it takes twice as much energy assaulting the enemy than staying in a defensive position. So he said, I'm retooling my company to start making masks for protection for the frontline fighters. Right now we're doing 10,000 a week. By Friday I'll be doing 50,000 a week, and we're going to go up from there. And just an amazing success story in America.
Okay, if this goes boom, okay, that's sorry.
Maybe.
But let me introduce the second half of what he said.
Okay.
Okay, everybody, even the the insane White House press pool, we're going, hey, this is cool. And then Mike turns to the president and says, Mr. President, I put something together on my own. Do you mind if I share it? The president goes, no, go ahead. And he gave about a 1-minute testimony of how God in his life helped him and how he just wants to give back because he loves this country so much. And you should see the Twitter universe. You should see Jim Acosta, talking about Trump putting his cronies a time not only to return to God, but to read the Bible. Kids were exploding. Can we play it?
I'm going to try.
All right, we're going to try to do this. If everything falls apart, catch us tomorrow. We'll be back tomorrow, okay? Tell me when.
No, not working.
Not working.
Okay.
Okay, we're going
So
to.
he mentioned God?
Yeah, we're going to have to retool here because what we want to do, we can't do because of the limitation of our equipment. But that's okay. We will figure out a way to get over that. Not only did he mention God, Midwest Dick, but he talked about God in his life, changing his life. And then he talked about the fact that our country over the past 20, 30 years has moved morally away from God to the detriment of the country. He saw it on a personal level. He saw it on a national level. And his message simply was, I came back from a horrible situation because of my personal relationship with God. And I'm just saying we're all locked in, in our homes. What a great opportunity to try to revive that relationship with God and then read your Bible. He said, read your Bible.
Did he say the B? Did he say the B word? I mean, that's the issue.
He said the B word.
I don't believe it.
And I said, we got to put that on the air tomorrow because we're doing a B word half hour before.
And go in, whether it was 9/11 or what's going on today. These warriors that go in every day to work in the medical community. What's wrong with them? Why don't they just think about themselves? What is it that moves them to be looking for their fellow man?
The answer on the top is my hat. It's my hat from an earlier life, my racing helmet when I was in the SCCA and all of that. I take my helmet off to those people. I take mine differently. Whereas our war fighters, we have a volunteer army,
Mm-hmm.
and they know that they're signing up to die.
Mm-hmm.
The possibility. And the guys that go into combat, they write letters and all this. It's protocol. Well, when a nurse signs up to be a nurse, she doesn't say, I'm going to die at my job. She just says, I'm going to go help people. Right?
That's goodness.
That's it. But now they're at a point, and they're volunteers, but they didn't really sign up to possibly die from an infection. And more and more are coming. We don't have people running away. We have more and more coming. Governor Cuomo put out a call yesterday for medical professionals at every level in different parts of the country to come and help in New York. And they're coming. They're coming to New York. My helmet is off to these people. What can you say?
So these people believe in something. They believe in goodness. They believe in something more than themselves. If they believed only in their finite self, well, they wouldn't do this. They have a belief that there's something bigger than them, and they have a belief and there's something inside humans called goodness. So I think this ties back to some of the Bible messages that people are hearing this week from you, Tom. The whole notion that human beings can be very, very good in addition to being very, very evil. And so there's something going on here more than the material life that people see every day.
Corona time, 10:30 to 11, spills over into our radio time. This is a tremendous opportunity, folks, for self-reflection, introspection. Finding out you don't know what's going on, that's no problem.
Yeah, it's called no resources on my computer.
Okay. All right. And a tremendous time to, and you need to organize. And I know the kids are driving you crazy, I understand, but you can organize all that. But find some time for your relationship on a spiritual level. You know, some people meditate, some people do this. We argue here for a personal relationship for the God of the Bible. That's what we argue for, is the most reasonable, logical, when all the homework is done, explanation for metaphysics, that which comes after the physical world.
But I think the point you're making here is that people who have a relationship with God, they do miraculous things. They understand goodness, and they're willing to risk. The word of sacrifice comes up. That's what military people do. They sacrifice. That's what the doctors and the nurses are do. So to get this violent reaction to the word Bible, or to get one of two directions, and I think people need to decide they're signing up for the people who believe in goodness, and the people that just really believe in a material activity and are not going to necessarily. They'll benefit from the people who sacrifice, but they're not necessarily going to take any action to sacrifice, including sacrificing to save the country.
Yeah, and that's the two worlds that exist within the United States. Those who are selfless and looking to help others, and those who are self-centered, looking for everyone to help them. And you could put an overlay of the political parties and look at the political parties that historically have self-sacrifice and a selfless component to them, and you'd be amazed at what you see. Do we want to try Claire? I think she's calling in.
She's going to call here. I'll put her the old-fashioned way.
Oh, no video?
The old-fashioned way. Yeah.
No video.
Right.
Okay, well, we just wanted to test the video, but I guess we tested that already. It doesn't work.
It failed miserably.
Maybe. It's another maybe.
All right, let's just do a quick update with Claire, and then I got to tell you something very interesting. We got interesting stuff here at 23 minutes after Tom Trento. All you radio folks, WNN 1470, 95.3, iHeartRadio. All of you streaming on our Zoom or watching on YouTube or at the UnitedWest.org. Good stuff, man. Yeah, is Claire with us?
She's calling in at 11:30.
Okay. All right, let me tell you the other story before we... Riding a 10-hour train ride to go meet his girlfriend. Now, this is an inspirational story. This is an inspirational story. You're going to like this story. You guys are going to like this story. Eric Wan was riding in a train 10 hours to go meet his girlfriend. He's saying, this is crazy. There's got to be a better way to meet my girlfriend than ride on this dumb train through the mountains, through the bad weather, every time I want to see her. He could have got a girlfriend who lived closer. I mean, that maybe would have been the solution. But he came up with an idea. And he felt that his idea had a better chance of coming to fruition if he left China and came to the United States.
Wow.
Problem is, the United States says, no, Eric Wan, come to United States.
They said that?
9 times.
Just like that.
They refused him a visa for him coming to the United States 9 times. He was persistent. He came to the United States, and he had a background in tech stuff, like you, Mark, computer stuff, all of that.
Yep.
And he found a job in some tech thing in Silicon Valley and all this, and then he did pretty well there. He rose, to the status of one of the officers in a big tech company. And then he said, you know what? He remembered his girlfriend and the 10-hour train rides. He said, maybe now I can implement that idea. And in 2011. Took whatever money he could take out of the company he left, and he took 40 of his engineers with him. Mm-hmm. And he started a little company, and the end of last year, it went public. And the NASDAQ valuation of his company started in 2011, really put it online 2013. The valuation of his company, the end of 2019, nothing to do with 2020. The valuation of Eric Wan's vision and his insistence and his persistence, and this is by application to everybody out there, you are watching us on Zoom, his company.
Incredible story. And as you know, Tom, we are trying our best to bring people together through Zoom. And what's happening is, I don't know, on Sunday I got invited to 15 different churches who were Zooming their sermons.
Can you believe what that company's worth now? They have 2,000 employees today. Right. He's worth $6 billion, Eric Wan. But I think not only, now, he left China to do this. He did it here. Mm-hmm. If he were there, but by inspiration, if you had those dreams, if you had a girlfriend who lived a long way away or a boyfriend and you came up with some, and that's it to me. If you develop something people want, like we do, we pay a monthly fee. Hey, folks, while you're at home, that idea going to get through it, use this time productively. Okay, what are we doing, Mark?
We're going to bring Claire on shortly.
Okay, we'll bring her on shortly. I got a lot of stuff here.
Well, you're going to have to talk about it. I have no video for you on it.
Okay.
You'd be happy with what you got. You got a streaming shot that hasn't died yet, okay?
Do you think I could talk for an hour? You think I can do that?
I don't know about that, though.
I don't know. 11:28 in the morning. I think I can. One of the things,
happy, like God said, be happy with what you got.
Yeah. One of the things I used to do was do a lot of public presentations, do 6-hour workshops, speak for 45 minutes, take a 10-minute break. It just it's like if you're an athlete and you're playing at a particular sport, the more you're in the game, 3 hours for a long time. So I can handle, I think, our crazy computer that's falling apart, but we're going to have to do something.
Okay, we have Claire on the line.
Not one computer. We got how many computers back there? 5 of them, but one of them is the main one that's just dying. Do we have Claire Lopez from Lopez Liberty for LLLC? Is LLLC with us?
Yes.
Productions. You're hearing it right now. We have not $1 million studio, but a pretty nice studio, and Mark's holding his iPhone next to a microphone, so you could hear our dear friend Claire. How you doing, Claire? And what I wanted to do for 5 minutes was find out about Lopez Liberty LLC, what she's doing, how people can get in touch with her, and what she does on a Monday night for the United West sister organization, Sharia Crime Stoppers. Did you hear that, Claire?
Yes. Hi, Liberty LLC. Israel certainly progress, but meanwhile, I'm doing a lot of writing, and then I also do webinars for the Encounter Truth platform. I've been doing a lot of writing. I have a blog site of my own at newsmax.com, and I write there every few weeks or so. Lately, I've been focused on things in the Middle East just to get our minds off of only the coronavirus, and I've written about the Saudi-Russian oil price war, for example. Where else? Let's see, the Citizens Commission on National Security, which is the successor group to Citizens Commission on Benghazi, headed up by Roger Aronoff, is another place where I post my written work, and we are continuing our work there as well. So that's what I've been up to.
All right, tremendous. And folks, Claire Lopez, whom you're listening to right now, has led a distinguished life, 20 years as a operations officer, traveling the world for the one of those 3-letter agencies, the central one, the one where you have to be intelligent, that agency, and she retired from there, then went to work for the U.S. government and several think tanks, And we know her for a long time. We've done a lot of work and presentations and all of that. And now she is forming her own one-person think tank. Claire is one person is equivalent to 10 other people.
It's a big think tank.
It's a big think tank.
There's a lot of thinking going on.
Now no one's traveling, no one's doing any speaking. I know your speaking appointments are down. If someone wants to get in touch with you for
On again on a Monday night at 7 p.m. Eastern at, I believe it'll be the 13th of April. By the way, for anybody that's listening, through the magic of all these things and Mary, you will be able to find last night's full 1-hour presentation by Claire on all these subjects at the YouTube. If you go to YouTube for the United West, you'll actually see her webinar from last night already posted by Mary.
All right, sounds good. All right, let's see. At 11:35 in the morning, Tom Trento, your host. The organization, there isn't any volume now.
It's good.
Okay.
It's back.
Tom, before we move off of Mike Lindell, it would be interesting. One of our listeners has posted a notion. What would have happened if Donald Trump had put somebody who owned a company and happened to be a Sharia-compliant Muslim person and got up in front of everybody and spoke about Islam and the Quran? Obviously, the media would have not reacted the way they did when a Christian spoke about the Bible. I thought that was an interesting comment that we were able to pick up.
Very, very good question, and I'll repeat it here. One of the we're talking about Mike Lindell and him sharing how God worked in his life and how the country needs to come back to God, to the Bible. And obviously, he's a Christian. He's talking in that question, in that context. Question was, or the comment, well, what if it was a Muslim? You know, you had some Muslim up there. A couple of points on that. And here's what the press missed, because the press was saying, criticizing the president, saying, a clear violation of separation of church and involved in the affairs of the church. The church bites the church that the founders used to go to in Islamic country. But if someone came up and, they have...
Your Chobani yogurt.
I'd say, hey, Mr. Chobani, right to do that. But I, as the president, would not be pushing Islamic doctrine or anything. I'd push his company, your Islamic faith, okay? I don't want to push that. I got a lot of problems with Islamic doctrine, not with you as an individual. You're doing great stuff for the country. That's how I would handle. I don't think the president would have. I think he would have let him say whatever he wanted to say. I got no problem with that. Then the argument takes place in the marketplace of ideas on that issue. And that's what we've been doing for many years, arguing that Islamic doctrine is incompatible with Western civilization and indeed the U.S. Constitution. So, hang in there when we get back to that stuff for sure. But one deal right now at 11:38 in the morning. Tom Trento, your host. This is fascinating information, very, very helpful on the Corona issue. The title for our show today was Pillows Made in America, Mike Lindell's story, Death Made in China. We are working with some people that have firsthand experience with China, with the Wuhan district, the city of Wuhan, all of that. We may be bringing them on later on to give some firsthand stories. Claire is one of the national security experts that sees information, sees evidence of some of the manufacturing of this particular corona family virus. The corona is a family of viruses that have this crown around them, thus corona. The crown, corona means crown, even for beer. And this particular corona has been labeled by the proper authorities as corona, CO, virus, VI, disease, D, COVID, in the year 19, COVID-19. This particular one, there's some indication it could have been genetically engineered, but the evidence right now leans more toward the wet markets of China. We'll bring you those wet markets and maybe show you some of the videos that are atrocious, absolutely atrocious. The
Tom, what is a wet market?
yeah, the sanitation and sanitary conditions of certain areas of China are beyond comprehension. A wet market, because this is very interesting how this came about. Because China is so big, 1.3 billion people, and because it's such a large agrarian country, farmers, people living in rural areas, and because it's communistic for many years, then there's a lot of poor people. You have a lot of poor people in Soviet-style countries, Soviet-style governments, which China is. They've modified somewhat, but all their rural, a lot of their elderly people are living under a total communist regime. So the people got to fend for their own to get food, and they wound up learning to eat anything they caught. And in a country as large as China, there's a lot of crazy animals. And the Chinese learn now, we're going back for a long time, even predating communism, but this became very big during the communist regime when they said they're going to feed everybody and they couldn't. They allowed the poor people to continue to eat wild animals. Every kind of animal you could imagine, from tigers and bears to snakes to slithering things to cervets to these weird cat-looking animals to bats. Anything you could imagine, they would allow them to eat so they didn't die. They just stayed alive. But one thing leads to another, and instead of everybody going out and hunting bats, people hunted their own bats and brought them to a market. And hunting these civet cats, these weird cats, brought them to a market. Hunting these little porcupine kind of animals, they brought them to a market. And one of the delicacies that developed in China was eating these animals raw. So they would have them there alive, and they'd have them in cages piled up on top of each other. So you have 4 or 5 different animals, and they're pooping on each other and urinating on each other, and their body fluids are mixing, and then they would start butchering them. The blood would be all over the place, and the Chinese people would take these things and eat them. We have video we can't even show you of this going on, taking live frogs and eating their heads. And well, one of the theories, this is a wet market where there's constant blood, and they try to wash away the blood and goo and everything else.
That's the reason it's wet.
And yeah, that's the reason why it's wet. And the scientists have determined through the years that these viruses that are unique to animals, particularly bats, a lot of them, went to different animals and somehow jumped to humans, probably.
Maybe when you ate the bat head. Okay? Maybe when you ate the bat head, it jumped, okay? Even Ozzy Osbourne knows you don't eat bat heads, okay?
Well, I think he ate a real bat. Maybe that's his problem.
He had a statement. He goes, effing hell, I could have told you eating bats would have consequences. That's Ozzy Osbourne saying that,
And you could see them. They
don't eat bat heads.
They take these bats full of disease. They throw them in boiling water like a soup, and then they serve them, and the Chinese people are eating the bats right out of the soup and sipping the soup up. And this is in the Wuhan area, in the wet markets of Wuhan.
And that's the good things they eat.
That's the good thing.
The good things.
Oh, I saw some videos this morning of a gutter oil. Did you see that, Dick? The gutter oil one? You don't even want to know.
No, I did not.
They go around and pull the sewage out of the sewage system, then go process it to get the oil out of the sewage, then bring that oil and sell it to the restaurateurs to cook the Chinese food. And unbelievable.
Well, and also you look at, they make the world's big supplier of blue jeans. And the blue dye, they just dump it right in the river. I mean, the river is
carcinogenic dye into the rivers. Yes,
literally blue rivers all throughout China. I mean, their environment. I mean, their environmental policy is horrid.
It's disgusting,
and everything breeds out of this. All kinds of crazy crap. And yes, we should start blaming China because they're doing a bunch of crazy crap like eating bat heads and throwing toxins into the waters.
Pillows made in America, death made in China.
Come on, lefty liberal, get mad at that. They're destroying the environment.
They're devastating the environment, and all the lefty global people want the U.S. to go back to the Paris Peace Climate Accords, and the Chinese are the. Look, we can go on forever, and again, we'll lay out the China issue.
But they're so cheap. Keep in mind, wait a minute, the other side of this story is I'm a Chamber of Commerce guy. I don't care.
Yes, this is a good point.
I want cheap labor. I will involve the laborers at the cheap level to make leather goods in conjunction with Italy. Whoops, what happened there?
Yep.
All of the above. So I think the Chamber of Commerce, when they go out and set up these factories, do they not see this?
Yeah, they see it with blinders on and say, hey, look, we're able to sell products cheaply to Americans. So, all right, look, we're going to...
I just want to make one quick point on this, Tom, okay, this is the result of communism, is world disease and petulance. It comes directly because they can't take care of their people. They have to resort to eating bat heads. Diseases are getting spread all throughout this country. They got overloaded with people, and they're killing babies left and right with all their female babies. They were. That's the result of communism, and that's the reason you can't have communism in the United States or any type of form of socialism, which is the next step of communism, guys. That's what we're fighting against right now.
I think you want to match that up with the wrong-headed part of the Chamber of Commerce, who would allow that to be the case. And
we want cheap. Yeah, we want cheap blue jeans.
Move factories there. I think all of this should be really looked at. The people that need to be the whole re-engineering of this country, so that we go back to the principles. We also hold accountable people who want to push us to Marxism, as well as the globalists and the Chamber of Commerce that want to push us through cheap labor into this mess.
We have. Am I on here? Am I on? We have. I don't hear myself. We have a lot of information on this, and we're going to be presenting it. This thing's going to be with us, but undoubtedly the transmission, the evidence is pointing to the transmission of COVID-19 came through the wet markets, all the dead, disgusting animals and all the body fluids and all of that going into a human, and then transmitted from that human, that's patient 0, to the next person. And then one of the reasons why we covered this, one of the reasons why northern Italy got hit is because there was direct flights from Wuhan to the Lombardy area in northern Italy, because for 30 years, hundreds of thousands of Chinese have moved there, and the Italians did the same thing. Hey, the Chinese will work for, half of what the Italians will work for, and they'll work twice as long. Our profit margin goes up. Well, the world is in a shockwave lesson of a cheap labor force, how devastating and destructive it could be to Western civilization. And China is in a rehabilitative state right now by making masks and ventilators and getting them to Italy and getting them to Spain and getting them to France, saying, we're really your savior, stick with us. I got to read this because this is important right now, this information. Everything's important we do here. Tom Trento, your host, 1149. Mike Lindell, Pillows Made in America, a patriot, Christian guy helping the country. China is a mess, and that's one of the lessons we're learning. Death made in China. Now, let me tell you about this death. This virus, and this is vetted out material, you can take this to the bank. This virus, and I didn't know this. I know a lot of stuff. I didn't know this. Well, let me ask you, is this virus a living organism?
That would be yes.
The answer is...
I got distracted. Say again, please.
Is this virus a living organism?
Yes.
The answer?
Yes.
Well, let me ask the audience. Is this virus a living
Oh, as far as like
organism?
thinking or nothing, not thinking.
The answer is no.
It's not alive.
Not alive.
It's dead.
Oh, it's a dead virus. It's just a thing. Okay.
The virus is not a living organism, but a protein molecule, DNA, covered in a protective layer of lipid, of fat,
Okay, didn't know that.
which, when absorbed by the cells of the ocular, your eye, nasal, or bronchial mucus in your throat, changes the genetic code mutation and converts those cells it comes in contact with into an aggressor and multiplier of those bad mutated cells.
That sounds like something that was created in a Chinese lab.
Isn't that bizarre? It's not alive. That's why it could stay on surfaces. It
And
just
not
sits
die.
there until it burns out. You gotta burn the fat away from the outside, and then it starts to dissolve.
Oh, so it can't stick to stuff. That's
Right.
the-
So
okay.
so it
it's
is
a
not.
protein molecule.
It's not alive, but it basically activates cells in your own body to take negative action somehow. Right? I mean, is that what we're saying?
Right. It's like your horrible brother-in-law you don't like. He's like half dead, but he can come and bother you. You know, he can get next to you. It's like that person in the movie theater sitting next to you with their arm on the thing. You know, you wish they weren't alive, but they're affecting you. They're affecting you. No, it's not. It doesn't replicate. In the world of biogenesis, for something to be alive, it has to be able to reproduce, and this is not alive. They call it a virus. I always thought it was a living organism that's in your
Yeah,
body.
so did
It's
I.
not. It's a thing that gets stuck to your cells and starts screwing with your cells. Now listen carefully. Since the virus is not a living organism but a protein molecule, it is not killed. You can't kill it because it's not alive. It decays on its own. The disintegration time depends on the temperature, humidity, and type of material where it lies. This virus actually is very fragile. The only thing that protects it is a thin outer layer of fat. That's why any soap, any detergent is the best remedy because it cuts the fat. That's why you have to rub so much for 20 seconds on your hands and get foam.
It's like getting the grease out of your pan to your frying pan.
Exactly. It cuts the fat away from the interior of the virus. It dissolves the fat layer. The protein molecule disperses and breaks down on its own. More. Heat melts fat. That's why it's good to use water above 25 degrees, 77 degrees Fahrenheit when washing your hands, clothes, and everything. In addition, hot water makes more foam, and that makes it even more useful in breaking away the fat layer. Alcohol or any mixture with alcohol over 65% dissolves any fat.
Well, that means I'm immune. I'm immune by
Pour your 100 proof stuff.
no,
No, it's got to be more than 100 proof.
Well,
right?
I'm my veins got 65% going through my concentrate.
You need 65% alcohol, especially the external lipid of the virus. Any mix with 1 part bleach, 5 parts water directly dissolves the protein, breaking it down from the inside. You got to be careful when you play with bleach. 1 part bleach, 5 parts water. Oxygenated water helps long after soap, alcohol, and chlorine because the peroxide dissolves the virus protein. But you have to use it pure, and it hurts your skin. No bacterial serves. No bactericide serves. The virus is not a living organism
That's
like
the reason.
bacteria.
Okay.
Therefore, you can't kill it with antibiotics. That's the problem
That
we
makes
have.
sense. Okay.
The virus, the vaccination, protects the existing living cells from COVID-19 going into those cells and mutating them.
So does the sunshine of Florida help?
I get to that. Antibiotic is not going to kill it, but quickly disintegrates its structure with everything said, the antibiotic. Never shake used or unused clothing, sheets, or clothes. While it's glued to a porous surface. It's very inert and disintegrates only between 3 hours and 4 hours. 3 hours on clothes, 4 hours on copper and other metals and woods. Because the moisture is removed from it, the fat starts to break away, and then the protein disintegrates. Cardboard, it can last for 24 hours. That's bizarre. 42 hours on certain metals and 72 hours on certain plastics. But if you shake it or use a feather duster, the virus molecules float in the air for up to 3 hours. They're now starting to see whether or not this is airborne in hospitals where people are sneezing and everything. That's why they have these air negative chambers they're working in. This stuff is nasty, floating around, very nasty. UV light on any subject that it contains can break down the virus protein. So you can disinfect and reuse a mask. Now they're starting to experiment with good ways of doing it. But when you use UV on your hand, you break down the collagen in your skin, which eventually causes wrinkles and skin cancer. So you got to keep putting lotions on your hands if you're using UV light. I don't think too many people are doing that. The virus cannot go through healthy skin. So if you put your hands in a vat of COVID-19, it's not going to do anything to you.
You have to wipe your eyes.
If you put it in your eye, your mouth, your ear, anywhere where it can get in, if you have a cut, it can get in your cut. So that's why wash your paws. Our hands are turning to paws. Wash your paws. Vinegar is not useful because it does not break down the protective layer of fat. No, Mark, I got bad news. No alcohol, no liquor, no vodka. The strongest vodka is 40% alcohol. You need 65%.
I got some of that.
Listerine. If Listerine says it's got 65% alcohol on it, you can use that to wash your hands or your mouth.
130 proof for everybody who thinks.
130 proof, right? You double the alcohol. The more confined the space, the more concentrated the virus can be there. Natural ventilation is great. This is super sad, folks, the writer, a doctor, is saying. But you have to wash your hands before and after touching your face, your mucous areas, your food, your hair, knobs, switches, remote controls, cell phone, watches, computers, desks, TV, etc. And whenever using the bathroom, if in a public washroom, do not use the drying machines which blow molecules all over the place. Go back to using paper towels, discard them in the trash, wash the knobs and buttons of surfaces wherever and whenever possible. You have to humidify your hands dry from the washing because the molecules can hide in the micro cracks of your skin. The thicker the moisturizer, the better. Keep your nails short. The virus can hide under your nails.
Really? Oh, okay. What about the Florida thing?
The sun helps to a degree, it says, with any virus. Not a cure-all, but it's good. It helps to a degree.
You know what I've been wigging out about is those little keypads when you go put your numbers in on your for your credit card. You go to a
ATMs.
Store, ATMs.
I did that the other day. I carried a pair of gloves.
Well, not just ATMs. Like if you go to and they want you to put your
in Publix or any place.
Any place. It's like, oh my God, I gotta touch this thing. You know.
I put gloves on to use the ATM the other day, and I took them off in the car, and I said, if there's bugs, they're on the gloves.
I know.
What is this? And I did a little research, and the gloves are simply another pair of skin.
I know.
The bugs go on your skin, on your gloves.
Yeah.
So you use a certain way to take them off and throw them away, or you can wash them. You can wash off the gloves.
Or use them, yeah.
But speaking of Publix, Publix has a new law, Dick. They're opening early for everyone in Florida over 60. And it's a great law because the other 10 people in the state are so happy to use Publix later in the afternoon. And then I heard
that's so true.
I heard that a guy in Gaza blew up his home the other day.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, he was told to stay home and work. So
work at home.
Work at home. And pray often. And pray often.
For those of you who come with us to Israel, you'll understand that joke, okay? I got to go now for Midwest Dick, J. Mark. We're out of here, guys.
Okay, we're out of here.
Okay.